One. All right. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today talking with my colleague and friend, Raine Lunke, who is a talent acquisition consultant. And today we are going to be talking about managing remote teams, recruiting and hiring online in the time of COVID, and really how to keep your remote teams engaged. And so Raine is an awesome business owner and talent acquisition consultant. She's out of Vancouver, Washington. She runs a company called R2R Strategic Recruiting. Go to her website, check out what she does. She's really helping companies redefine recruitment through deeper engagement and tailored search processes. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Skye Mercer. I'm a virtual HR consultant. I support small businesses, nonprofits, and local governments all over the US with offloading the overwhelm of HR and creating compliant, drama-free workplaces. So I would like to just get right into it, to the meat of it, with Raine. Hi, Raine.
Hi.
It's so good to have you here. I am just really dying to ask you a few of these questions. Like, tell me, are employers even hiring right now in the time of COVID?
Well, I will say yes, yes, and yes. There was a little pause, I would say, by a lot of employers in that June to July timeframe, thinking we were going to kind of get out of COVID and get back into the offices, and realizing very quickly that that wasn't going to be the case. So I would say mid to end of July, companies were like, okay, let's do this. So there's definitely organizations that aren't hiring, right? I mean, you've got like the more of the retail, the tourism, the hospitality industries. Those are where you're not going to see the hiring. It's tech, semiconductor, manufacturing. I mean, they're hiring. And actually, personally, I've hired more people this year than I did last year. So
really? Oh my gosh, that's huge. And that's really helpful information, you know, that it's those types of jobs that are you're still hiring out there for. Awesome. So what do you think are the biggest recruiting and hiring issues that employers are facing right now with COVID?
Well, I will definitely say I would say there's three core buckets that I'm really, really seeing. The first one is leveraging technology. It is definitely the challenge, and the companies are somewhat uncomfortable getting comfortable in front of the screen in a lot of ways. A lot of bigger companies have been using different technologies, making virtual hires and offers and onboarding for a long time, but many of these even smaller to mid-sized companies that I work with regularly here in the greater Portland area that are really struggling. And I think that there's just a lot of more, it's more uncomfortable, it's unknown, it's being on camera, even as an interviewer.
Yes.
And working with the tech, the internal tech teams for security and things of that sort. So that I would say is clearly number one. Number two would be the struggle of onboarding and training. So I have a client that I've worked with, and she definitely needed to hire a couple of people. And she said, honestly, I'm scared to move forward in the hiring process because I don't know how we're going to onboard and train them.
Right. Yeah.
I have managers who are, let's just say, in the older generation, and they are not comfortable with technology, and they are not comfortable figuring out, I hate to say it, figuring out how they're going to train new hires and onboard them in the virtual setting. So I would say that is number two. That is definitely has been glaring the spotlight on, we need to hire, but what if we hire, how do we onboard and train them?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So like these technology challenges, I know even myself, I've been facing the like tech challenges, even as we're preparing for this call, I'm like, I got to make sure Zoom's recording right and the slides are up. And like,
Yeah.
it's just challenging. It's really unique. So like the information you're sharing is super helpful. And like when you're working with these clients and like seeing these challenges, what are you finding are best practices that employers can use to improve virtual remote interviewing?
Well, first of all, reach out to the service providers. I mean, the service providers, right, are struggling right now, and they are so eager to be helpful and be a resource, to come alongside, to show you and hold your hand of how to get comfortable, how to implement it, how to work with your IT team. So it's reaching out to those people that can really help do that. Um, I think it is honestly, I think it is just stepping in and doing it. Personally, there's this tool that I have been enamored by for over a year, and I'm like, I want to use it. I signed up for a trial like a year ago, a free trial. A year ago, I didn't use it. I put it off, right? Because I'm comfortable doing the same process. Last week, I had like 5 interviews in one day scheduled. And I was like, it takes me so long to do this one particular thing within my process. If I just use this tool, I would cut 40% of my administrative time. I said, I'm doing it. So I called the service provider, and they're like, okay, how many conversations do I have to have with you, Raine, to get comfortable using our tool? And so
they were willing. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I got it all set up. I had my 5 interviews on Friday. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep because I was so nervous about this new tool and what I was going to do if it messed up. That Friday, I was in my office and I was like, yes,
it worked.
I cannot even believe, and I won't share the tool because I mean, if you want more information about that tool, just message me and I'll be glad to share more. But I was like, this is the time, this is the season. Try, test, and just experiment.
Yeah, use the technology, right? Like, yes. I know I've had the experience with Zoom when I was getting started as a business owner using Zoom, and I've used Zoom for interviews as well. Like I'm sure you have, and calling them, they helped me set it up and they helped me get comfortable with it. So you're totally right. Like reaching out to the resource provider can be a really, really helpful tool, really helpful best practice. Now, similarly, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say, because just this week I was working with a candidate, right? And so they're struggling as well on the tech side.
Right.
And it was a virtual interview. And he's like, I don't have a camera. I have a laptop and it doesn't have a camera in it. And we're like, oh, great, interviews in just a few hours. So, working with the candidates as well, and meeting everyone, where you're at from a technology standpoint, and just feeling like it's okay. We can work through the technology glitches together.
Exactly. Like we'll get through it together. We're in this together. And I mean, interviewing for a job is stressful already, and then adding that online element. And then I know, like, once you get to the job offer phase too, so say that you've made this decision virtually and now you're like, okay, now we're talking money and now we're putting together the job offer process. Like, what do you think are some of the best practices you're seeing and that you're guiding employers through as a talent acquisition specialist and a recruiter, best practices for virtual job offers?
Well, I will definitely say, please stop just sending offers via email.
Oh, yeah.
I had a client do that recently, and I'm like, we just missed a huge opportunity there. So you have to have the offer, or you have to have the conversation in the very beginning and throughout that interviewing process. Always be talking to the candidate, revisiting compensation, total rewards, but outlining this is the process, this is the next step, this is our
Right.
compensation philosophy, this is our approval process. Like,
Yeah.
tell them up front, because a lot of times, like, that comes at the end, and then the candidate's like, okay, now we're waiting a couple more days, offer approval process. Like, it's all
Right.
about communicating and setting the expectations. And so a lot of it is just that communication. One of the things, though, that I get really excited about is the creativity piece about this part of the process. And I really, really encourage people to start using videos, recorded videos. It's
Yeah.
so simple. Have your executive leader record a welcome video. You can email it to the new hire with the offer letter. You could have the colleagues of this new hire who they went through the interview process just send a personalized message. And I'm talking, like, use your phone. The more authentic we can be during this time, we don't need some fancy, video production. Like, it's all about that human connection. And what I will kind of going back to one of the biggest challenges that employers are facing when recruiting and hiring right now is the fallout process of candidates, even after they're accepting a job.
Yeah.
It's a family decision now.
Right.
And there's a lot of influencing happening.
Right.
And we're seeing candidates are actually accepting offers, and then they go to give notice, or even they've given notice and they're like, no, I can't do it. I'm losing my PTO.
Yeah.
I'm first one in, or, I'm going to be the last one,
Right. Lose my
first
seniority.
one hired, last one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like all of these things were problems before COVID, and it's like they're still there. And I think the reason that people need you, that employers need you, is we have got to shift and continue to shift here with the whole applicants are customers. You help them map the applicant journey, the communication. It's a sales process. It's a marketing process. And that is here to stay. It's a two-way decision. And that's really why companies need you. They need you to help them through, like, here's how to make the job offer personal. Because if you don't, there's a lot of research that shows the way you treat someone during that application process, during the onboarding, during the job offer, they remember that during their first day. They remember it more than anything else. And there's a lot of research that shows that they'll leave the company, that it impacts retention rates when you don't do it well. So people need you. I cannot say it enough. You need to contact Raine. If you're recruiting positions, she will guide you through the virtual interviewing, the virtual job offer, and make it a personalized, engaging process.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Skye, so much. And this conversation it gets me all fired up.
It's exciting.
But you've been asking me all the questions. I want to flip the script, because I definitely, I have some HR certifications, but I am not HR. I am talent acquisition. You are the HR person. So I want to flip the script, and I want to ask you some questions.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the questions I have for you is, tell me what you're seeing as far as how employers can improve the virtual onboarding.
Yeah, so I am with you 100%, Raine. Leverage the technology, master the technology, learn the technology. I am all about Trello.com, Airtable.com. If you're a super small business or a nonprofit, these are awesome ways for free to manage onboarding using like a Kanban process oriented flow. I'm a big fan of those for onboarding for employees, and just like to to piggyback off of what you said, make it personal. Use those video snippets. I'm all about that. You're so spot on. Welcome the people with message, do virtual lunches, manage onboarding just like you would with a strategy, with a plan, and then everything gets tweaked a little bit, right? So like on their first day of employment, on the on-site job, it might have been that the CEO was taking us out to lunch. Well, that's not possible anymore. So how about a virtual lunch on the first day? There's still these things that you can do and map out and be strategic about. You just have to do them a little bit differently.
So how can leaders improve their virtual leadership skills?
Yeah. It's hard. Okay. So leadership, as you and I know, is already hard.
Yes.
It's already super challenging when we're in person in the exact same office. Then let's throw in that we all need to go online super quick and manage remote teams in less than 2 weeks time. So it's challenging, and people are asking the question, how do we create connection? How do we create culture when it's a remote team? And the answer is not simple, and it depends on your company, but there are certain practices that I talk about on my blog and different things that you can do to engage your workforce remotely. And it starts with communication and making sure you're using the right communication mode for the right conversation. So like with new employees, it's probably best to hop on video a lot of the time, do quick video check-ins in the morning, always have an outcome-based like meeting purpose so that people don't feel like you're just wasting their time. But there are other things you can do, like fun games you can play. Like I put together a work from home wellness bingo card on my website, or virtual co-working. I have a guide on my website where it's a tool that's an employee empowered tool to like create virtual co-working spaces so that you feel the connection of your coworkers, even if it's remote. But there's no one size fits all. There's no like one and done answer. It's definitely going to be similar to that onboarding, where you're taking the whole leadership strategy and you're mapping it out a little bit differently because you're now remote.
What are your thoughts around, because I'm working with a lot of employers who have the essential workers that are working at, on site, and then you have the corporate or supporting functions who, like, how are you bridging, what suggestions do you have for bridging that, where you have essential workers who aren't on their computers all day long?
Right. It's so challenging. And it's similar to the challenge that already existed with multi-facility employers, right? So like just because we have a group at home now, we used to have a group in building A, B, or C, and that was always a challenge, right? Like, how do we get them together? How do we communicate? So like a lot of it is taking those strategies, but putting them online. And so it might be a team meeting once a month. It might be like having town hall meetings once a month. It might be publishing FAQs or having a shared workspace online. I see a lot of employers doing cool stuff with social media, like in-house social media. There's different tools and technologies you can use so that people can like post photos of themselves and like, connect, whether they're on site or whether they're at home. But I gotta say, I'd be remiss to not acknowledge that the people who are essential and are at the facilities, we have to treat them with a lot of care and a lot of respect and a lot of recognition right now to show that they are really doing something special, in that they're showing up to work every day, taking a risk. And I think acknowledging that and re-acknowledging over and over is so important.
Nice. Well, you are like the HR go-to person when it comes to policies and procedures, and I'm constantly following your LinkedIn feed of like, what do I need to know? So what are some of these policies and procedures that companies really need to be focused on with, the virtual hiring and employment now, or just with a lot of changes in organizations in general?
Yeah, leadership right now, I think, is the most challenging ever. You have compliance updates, legal updates coming at you left and right. So I would focus my efforts on making sure I'm compliant with all of the laws that are coming out. I mean, from the Form I-9 to the
Yes.
Families First Coronavirus Response Act to working from home in a confidential manner and making sure you're meeting, state and federal regulations. There's so much going on. Like, I would probably focus on getting a solid work from home policy in place, and then making sure I have a system for making sure I'm keeping up to date with compliance updates. But yeah, I even just helped a client the other day put into place a face mask policy. Like, there's all, cleaning protocols. I teach a workshop how to write a compliant COVID-19 employee handbook addendum, because there's all these policies to stay on top of.
Yes.
So it's definitely challenging.
Well, I feel like we could just talk all day long, and maybe we need to do this like weekly or something.
I totally agree. I would absolutely love that. You are a wealth of information on talent acquisition, recruitment, like sharing those best practices and tips, and like really like coming over the fear hump to like get on board with the technology. So I cannot thank you enough for being here today, for talking to me today. I just want to say to folks, Raine is amazing. If you need recruitment help, if you need virtual help, like help with virtually recruiting your employees, contact Raine. Here's her email address, Raine at r2rrecruiting.com. And then myself, I am happy to provide virtual HR consulting services for your employees, handbooks, personnel policy updates, even monthly consulting that I provide for small businesses, nonprofits, and local governments. And here's my email address, Skye at skyehrconsulting.com. And I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Raine, for being here today. And I am just excited to continue to partner with you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.